As we come now into these final weeks of Lent and move ever closer to our celebration of Passion Week, Holy Week, we will be reading from the final discourse in St. John's Gospel, this very lengthy conversation that Jesus has with the disciples and all who will come after him. And we begin to feel that struggle between good and evil, between grace and sin, and certainly the darkness that begins to descend more and more until Good Friday. That struggle between living in that darkness or choosing the light. And Jesus reminds us today, so often our gaze is on the Lord, on the crucifix. We celebrate Mass every day and look at the Lord in the Eucharist, but Jesus reminds us he came for one purpose: to lead all to the Father, all who hear the Father's word and believes in me, Jesus says, will have eternal life, will not have condemnation, but will pass from the darkness into eternal life. Jesus points us to the Father in heaven. And it is the Father that we hear, who is so very merciful and gracious. Those comforting words of Isaiah, spoken to the people in great darkness, the darkness of captivity caused by their disobedience and their sins. They live in a rather hopeless state, not sure at all if they will ever be returned to the promised land. And no doubt in that state they feel that they have been forgotten, abandoned. We can all feel that way at times in life as we face our own crosses and difficulties and struggles. But what does the Father speak to the people of Israel through Isaiah? Can a mother forget her infant, be without tenderness for the child of her womb? Even should she forget, I will never, ever forget you. That's the promise the Father gives to all of us in every age. I will never, ever forget you. But we're called to live in the Father more and more each day. And the way to the Father is through the Son. We're called to hear those words of Jesus, the truth of his teaching, the witness of his life, and begin to believe not only with our mind, but with our heart. Faith isn't something just to be received. It's meant to be lived, to be shared, to be set out on a lampstand so that that faith can give witness to all and be a source of encouragement. Today we honor a relatively unknown saint, St. Francis of Paula. He was so inspired as a young man by St. Francis of Assisi that he decided to become a hermit. He spent most of his life alone in a cave. But the lesson he teaches is that the way to heaven is through prayer, through that solitude that we're invited into more and more in these Lenten days, so that we can come to know the Father. Life can prevent us sometimes from fostering that intimacy and communion that we need, so that God can speak to our heart and we can begin to live more fully in communion with him. It's why one of our disciplines is prayer, so that through that prayer every day, more and more, we can abandon those things that are obstacles to our life in God and begin to open our hearts more deeply to the word that God speaks, inviting us to life inviting us to grace, inviting us over and over again to conversion of life, so that as we grow in holiness and come to know the Father more deeply, we will be given all we need to make our way to heaven.